So this is my Grameen. This is the organization I joined 3 years ago with this exciting challenge on the top, which is how to strategically leverage IT capability to enable the poor, especially the poorest, to create a world without poverty. It's a challenge, but it's an inspiration, and it's also a great opportunity for me to go every day to my work, feeling that I have a meaning for the work I do, and there is a value I want to bring. So with this challenge, it is inspiration, it is an opportunity, but there are some technical challenges embedded in this main exciting challenge that I had on my plate the first day I stepped into my role. The challenge in how to transfer IT to support such an innovative and dynamic organization that works globally, that is mission-driven and works in tough environment, and has this major goal to achieve, which is end poverty. How to support 200 plus employees and staff around the world with a staff of 2 people, that is still 2 people as of today, and with a very small budget and resources. I think we all have these challenges, even if you have more employees and more staff. And finally, how to enable productivity, mobility, and flexibility for our working force. A working force that exists and live in very challenging environments. We're talking about rural areas, poor countries, infrastructure, power, all of these. So how we can make sure that these mission-driven, excited people can do their job and can serve the poor. So I started with really looking in the strategy I put for the organization when I first joined, looking at areas where technology could be leveraged. And these levels, they cover everything we do in the organization. Mainly, my goal was how to bring technology from being seen and perceived as a service and a commodity to added value to the organization, so it can serve the mission and enable everybody in the organization to do their work. So these 4 levels, which is what we call the user-facing, it's what we need to do our job, productivity, email, keeping the lights on. And then the business development and the fundraising and the donor-facing level for leverage, which is a key part of an organization that is on a mission. And third is the programs and the field offices facing solutions and leverage, which is when we go to the field to implement our programs. And finally, but most importantly, the poor-facing solutions. This is where we want most of the value to reach, to really building solutions for the poor. The main value I saw in what the Lean IT proposed are these main 3 key values in the work that I was trying to do at Grameen, which is how to integrate the IT capabilities with the business processes and the products and services. And with the products and services, I mean the poor-facing solutions that we build. And secondly, how to bring the operational excellence to every level where I want to leverage IT. And finally, with moving to the cloud, we solved many of the problems, but this also brought new areas, new challenges that Lean IT would have helped in identifying the problems and improve on them. The Community Knowledge Worker Program is launched in 2009 in Uganda. It was built and based on some of initial work we did in Uganda, but that one in particular focused on addressing the last mile challenge of agriculture extension services. In the design of the program, we combined both the power of mobile technology and the human network, the community, the farmers themselves, that they need to help each other. And the focus was to really provide small farmers with essential informations about their crops, but also guiding them through a new behavior and adopting better practices in their farming. This is kind of the most technical, and I see some people wanted to focus more. This is the architecture. This is how now CKW program technology architectures look like. On the first level, you see the different services that are delivered on the mobile. It's delivered on a smartphone of Android. The choice of smartphones was because we are able to put content and cache it on cache memory when we go to rural areas where we could lose data connectivity and mobile connectivity. So the content goes around offline and online with us. At the same time, there is the call center and SMS services on what we call feature phones, less complicated phones, and the phones that are likely to be in the hands of the farmers themselves. And finally, there were also use of radio, and et cetera. All of this is delivered through the telecommunication channel. And the back end is in the cloud. We have both content development, because it's all about agricultural content in the cloud, and we use Salesforce in the cloud to manage the project itself, to manage the CKWs, to manage the phones, the assets, and the reporting and dashboards. So this is how the flow looks of the content. You start with, I'm talking about animals or agriculture, and then all the way to really detailed content, pictures of crops, diseases, etc. to the end. And this is what the program looks like. The CKW, once they are recruited, they are given one of these yellow T-shirts that you're going to see in a minute, a mobile phone, smartphone, Android, and a charger that works with solar energy and is able to charge the phone and also lights, because many of these rural areas, they don't have electricity. And these are what the information that the CKWs are trained to provide to their communities. And the CKWs themselves are also farmers. So half of their work is kind of volunteer. They do get compensation for some of the services, but half of it is really volunteer because they want to help each other. They are themselves farmers. This is some of the impact we saw so far between farmers who received CKW information and how it's impacted the prices of their crops, their practices, compared to those who did not have access to the CKWs. But we're still learning. 3 years through this program, these are the key lessons we learned, is that the information by itself alone was not enough. We do need the human aspect of it, the community, the knowledge workers. And behavior change is actually not just adding more information. It takes way more than that to adopt better practices. So that was the challenge. The CKW program was reaching the end of their funding, and they were looking at potential of how they can scale it and introduce new services to use it on this extension service platform. So where they were looking at, can we bring mobile services, financial services, and have the CKWs deliver financial services? With that, they wanted to see how they can document the best practices, identify and improve the key processes, and also capture best practices to see how we can scale it.
We spent 5 days in Uganda. The first day, we went to Gemba. Now, Gemba in Uganda is a little bit different. You get in a van, and you drive north for about 3 hours until you get to the end of the road, and then you keep going for about another hour. In a Toyota van, by the way, huge market share, because they hang together in these kind of conditions. You get to a village, and people are standing, and they're waiting for you. You sit under the shade of a tree, and it really is a stand-up meeting. People are there to say, what are we doing? What are we trying? What's not working? How can we solve our problems? Extremely intelligent, extremely industrious people who need information, okay? So as we are there, as we are sitting around in a circle, one of the farmers, this fellow right here, you see him holding up his hands? What he is doing is saying, we're having this disease we've never seen before. The ear of the corn is turning black, and there's something going on. What is this other person doing here? This is the community knowledge worker. He is, as this farmer is describing the disease, the CKW is bringing up the disease, and within moments, he shows the farmer a picture of what this particular disease is, and then the phone gets passed around the village, okay? It's that simple, but it's not simple at all. So much had to happen for that to come together. At the end of our visits, at the end of this particular village visit, this village right here, we said, what's happening out there? One woman stood up and said, in the last 6 months of the CKW program, my crop yields have doubled. In other words, her family income has doubled, and I bought a goat. Okay, right there, she has an asset that is a productive asset, and that's a step forward. That's a foot on the first rung of the ladder out of poverty, right there. Okay, so that's the story. That's the value proposition. So after one incredible day and an incredibly long journey home,
200 kilometers.
200 kilometers, which is not like it is here, I tell you. The next day, we get back in the Grameen offices in Kampala, and we have the first day of the leadership workshop, where we get all of the leadership team together, and we're here to focus on scaling. We're here to focus on improving the framework. We're looking at the obstacles. So what do? We do a Kanban exercise. We get all of the leadership team to write out Kanbans. What's your demand? What's your load? What's your flow? What are your problems? And then we put them all up on the wall, and we talked about them. And then when the leadership team was done talking about them, we brought everybody in the room, and we talked about them again. That was day one. I would say there were a few aha moments in that first day. Visualizing. Then, the next day, we put a very large sheet of paper on the wall, and we said the whole CKW program, from the time we go into a new country, with a new language, with a new crop, with a new partner, how do we stand that up? Once we have that stood up, how do we start a new region? How do we start a new set of CKWs in a region? And how do we learn? And how do we build that back into each iterative growth cycle in that region? And then finally, once we've built that region up, how do we put it in a sustaining mode? And it took us a couple of days, and you can see we got pretty busy here. And this is what it looked like by the end of day two. Everybody was in. I was in the back of the room. I was sitting down just watching. The energy in that room was just amazing, okay? And at the end of the day, I did a 2-hour workshop with their development group on Scrum. They were practicing Scrum, but they had never quite made the last mile connection with the customer. And so we told them some stories about what it was like to use the cell phone, to use the phone in the village. And at that point, you could see the light bulbs going on about what they were really doing to help those farmers in the field make their lives better. I mean, they knew it intellectually, but they didn't appreciate it emotionally. So that's the importance of taking everyone in your team out to the Gemba. It's not good enough to talk about it. You have to go out and see it.
So 5 months into this new journey with Lean in the field, in the programs, this is the message I received from Shankrip, who's the country director in our Uganda program. And I'm not going to read the whole code, but I'm going to really read the part of it where he says, we started seeing the walls coming down and the collective consciousness rising. We're starting to celebrate problem solving, and we are proactively helping colleagues to unblock flow. But most importantly, we are experiencing a renewed focus on creating value for the world's poor. So that's already what he started seeing in 5 months. So we're still in the experimental phase. For my side, this brought another important new thing, which is it really demonstrated the value of Lean IT to our leadership in the program side, something I missed when we applied Lean IT in the operation side. When they heard it from Sean in Uganda, the message the next day reached to the chairman of the board that this is what the Uganda team is doing. And now I have the whole leadership team excited and wants to learn more and wants to transform. We also, one thing that resulted from this workshop and the work is we created a community of practice within Grameen called Lean at GF, and we used Salesforce Chatter, which we used for a number of communities of practices. And this has been going really very well. We started attracting the different technology programs who use Agile and Scrum and other methods. And we're seeing more and more interaction, including that Steve actually contributes to this chatter group. So we socialize really the experience with Lean, and we hope that we're going to continue to foster that. This is what I'm excited about. This is where Lean is taking me forward with the organization, and where it's also taking Grameen Foundation. Now the leadership is excited. IT actually is going to be the champion of transforming the organization. We're going to have an organization Lean transformation initiative. At the same time, we have a focus on becoming a data-driven organization on all levels, not just in measuring the impact, but also how we make decisions in an ever-changing environment. So we're going to link these two initiatives together.